really feeling good, driving the Range Rover, buying a second house, all these kinds of things. And it's funny now, I look back, it's distraction, distraction, distraction. At one point, I stood up in my office. I remember this like it was yesterday. And out of nowhere, really just had this feeling of, why am I doing this? And it's like, I just had this kind of deep understanding of, oh shit, this is not the recommended route. I just burned it to the ground. I didn't ask for help.
And now the question is, what's my purpose? That is a very difficult question to answer for most people. With us today, Dylan Clayton Bost from Sunny HQ. And today we're talking about something that I'm personally really experiencing, and that is a very intense physical burnout. So, Dylan, my first question to you, what happens? What's my body telling me as I'm going through this intensity of this burnout that I'm feeling a year after everything burnt to the ground?
Yeah, well, it's probably telling you a whole host of things. The interesting thing, and that I think is helpful, is connecting the what it is to the where that pain or that discomfort is. And, my go-to is always Louise Hay with this. So if your listeners aren't familiar, just look up Louise Hay, incredible teacher in this regard. And the reality is, and I was just studying a little bit about this morning, I have some light vision issues and was really looking for some help with that. As it happens to be, vision is tied to not wanting to see something. So, the answer to your question, most of the time it's right in front of us, right? Whether that issue is our back carrying something, or shoulders that, we're carrying things that we don't need to carry anymore. Our ears, there's something that we just don't want to hear. I have a number of things that I'm dealing with. I think we all are. And even now, with the things that I understand, I will kind of do some research and I don't want to hear it, right? Not want to really connect with what that's telling me. I don't want to be aware of that thing because I don't want to introduce it into my world. But to me, that transitions directly of how important that awareness is, because I think once you start to connect with that thing, the beauty is I have a really wonderful teacher that says this, and it always strikes me at so perfect for this moment, is the only complex thing is finding out that it's very easy. And I didn't want to understand that forever. What that means is, you just got to let it go. I mean, in reality, it's once we become aware of that thing and we can kind of connect with it, it's as easy as saying, thank you for that teaching. I no longer need you anymore, right? And then releasing it.
Yeah, there's a story that comes to mind that had come to me when I was in a spiritual teaching, that I'm on a boat and I'm trying to sail, but the anchor is stuck. And now I'm going to get my diving license. I'm getting better at diving, and I'm seeing it's stuck at a coral, and I'm becoming a coral specialist. And it goes on and on and on. And somebody gives me a knife one day and said, just cut the damn anchor.
Yeah. Right?
And so that reminds me very much of what you just said. So tell us about your story when you had this trigger moment, or this breakthrough transformational moment in your life. Tell us about your burnout and what happened.
Yeah, mine came in what I see as a non-traditional way. I took a lot of my cues from television. I was a latchkey kid. I hadn't seen this particular thing ever happen, and so it snuck up on me. But I was running an advertising, branding, marketing agency, probably in year 8 or 9. And, things were actually going incredibly well. We had grown organically. We were 25 people, somewhere around $4 or $5 million in revenue, and really feeling good, driving the Range Rover, buying a second house, all these kinds of things. And it's funny now, I look back, it's distraction, distraction, distraction. A steady stream of Amazon boxes coming, worked all the time, because that's what I thought made me a good husband, a good father, was the working part of it, right? I'm supposed to provide, completely one-dimensional. And at one point I stood up in my office. I remember this like it was yesterday, and out of nowhere, really just had this feeling of, why am I doing this? Again, Everything on paper was great. And that shook me. I still connect with that moment now. I still haven't completely, I think, healed from that. And because I feel a little bit in my solar plexus, right? When I even tell this story, and it's like, I just had this kind of deep understanding of, oh shit, well, if this is not what I'm supposed to do, what am I supposed to do? And now I'm trapped in this whole matrix of things, right? I'm responsible for these people. This is my livelihood. I'm not, I mean, how do I disconnect from it? Or what even do I do? And this is not the recommended route. I just burned it to the ground. I didn't ask for help. I didn't ask for help from my family. I didn't ask for help from mentors. I just tried to white knuckle it through the whole thing. And during that time, where that was right around 2008, of course, we had a large financial crash. We thought we were insulated from that, but all of a sudden I have real pressure because about 30% of our business was real estate and development people in those markets. And we lost that business. And even we're left holding receivables that we would never realize. So with that, now this new pressure on me of, oh no, now you've never had to deal with this and you can't deal with this. And I literally just decided, you know what, numbing it through drinking was a good idea and not asking for help. And then it just was this unfortunate, just really slow train wreck of situation. Fortunately, I, came through that with my family. So, I mean, the great part is today I'm thriving and have a wonderful relationship with my wife and repaired many of those relationships. But it was existential in that moment, was to really have no clue.
So let me ask you this. So what you're describing almost sounds like you've been programmed into the hustle culture, and that was the identity. Because I think this is really important that we talk about it. Share a little bit more about sort of what that drive is or was. Was it automatic? Was it a belief system you took over from other people? Is it something that you were told to do? Tell us about how you got there.
Yeah, I think a lot about this. I think that it's part family, part watching, again, so my parents divorced when I was really young, so I was with my single mother, fantastic designer in the fashion industry. And so, but she worked all the time. When I was with my dad, he worked all the time. So to me, from a very early age, it was programmed that that's what parents do. They work. I mean, my memories as a kid are being alone. And that's a whole nother topic, of course. But I think that programming started then. And then, at least in the US, for sure, that's the biggest value that we place on people is what they do. That's the first question that we ask when we're at any party, or that we are asked, what do you do? Who are you is what you do, and all of the things that you've done. And so to me, it was just, I didn't know any better. I mean, that's what you did. You literally got jobs in school, you got jobs out of school. And then it was about more and more and more, right? Which is this cliche of a message now, right? It's just like, I can only be something if I have these things.
Well, I think it starts a lot earlier. I'm going to jump right in here.
Yeah.
It starts with the minute you're pregnant in New York, you have to apply for the proper, what is it, like preschool at $40,000-$50,000 a year. And if you're not in that preschool, you're not making the important connections that are going to get you somewhere. I mean, talk about this insanity being pushed forward. And what was the moment when you realized that this is a false positive, or that this is not making you happy? Was there a progression of steps? Did you have to crash first? Like, explain to me how you got down through that low point and how you sort of what happened in that low point to get out.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did have to crash. I wish that there was a way out, but I also am very grateful for that entire experience. I had to literally get to a point where I was now working for myself. We closed the agency. We had filed for personal bankruptcy, and the ego hits just kept coming from that. And then probably spent, 6 months just trying to figure things out. We had 3 relatively small children from 12 to, at that point, 12 to 1 years old, 3. And so just trying to kind of realize what it is that I want, and then how to do anything at that point. I looked at, do I go work for someone that looked incredibly attractive? Do I just get a job? Because I had at this point in that agency had worked for thousands of customers, and it was a super fast-paced environment. And what sounded super cozy was, well, what if I go market one project or one product? That seemed super easy. But it was really, I think it was my kids in a big way that helped me to transition out of that slump into something. Because I looked up and realized, here I've got a 12-year-old girl, and the others aren't far behind her. And I connected with who I was as a kid. And I thought, I knew a lot when I was 12. I knew a lot when I was 8, right? And I was like, I can't let what they see of me now be who they think their dad is. And I think that was a real turning point for me, was to say that I've got to get back with the program. I was able to build that thing before. I can build something again, but now what do I want? And that became the next step, which was defining how to build a business that's different so that I essentially don't do the same thing again.
I love that. I mean, that's the whole purpose of our show for Founders of the Future, is to talk about that. If it is not built on an inner alignment, resonance, purpose, it's a job and it's a hustle culture, most likely, and it will be through external validation. So you're now realizing there has to be some sort of internal validation. And now the question is, what's my purpose? That is a very difficult question to answer for most people.
Yeah.
Take me through how you wrestled that question, or did you surrender to the question, or did you battle that question? Like, what was the path to this inner alignment?
Yeah, I'm still working on it. I think that
that is the truth. That is the best answer, because it never goes away, does it?
No. I'm 55, and I think really within the last year did I start to realize maybe what my purpose is. So for Sunny HQ and for this company that I created out of devastation, what it became is a factor of, what can I do that I know will bring me joy, not just that I can tolerate, right? But that will bring me joy, that will enable me to have time with my family. Because at this point, I need to do things differently. I missed out on the first, from one child, a good 8 years of their life, and for the most part. And for the others, I've got this son now who's 2, I need to be a different thing for him. And so I knew this can't be something that requires me around 8, 10, 15 hours a day. I'd been through that. And so I started to design then a business that had reoccurring revenue, was important, that I knew that service was valued. So that's where that alignment piece came in, right? I knew there was something that I wanted to deliver, and it didn't necessarily answer this kind of purpose question yet, but it got close, right? It enabled me essentially to develop a business in which I knew there was a big gap in the marketplace. So in this case, kind of a higher end WordPress hosting, support, maintenance for customers. I knew that there was this place where it was absent of humans, right? So we have hosting for the most part, which is a commodity, right? I go and plug in and I buy this service, and when I need somebody, I don't really have anybody that's human to talk to, or if I do, it doesn't feel human. So it enabled me to inject that part into that business. But really, it was flashing forward to some deep internal work in the last 10 years and even our family left the country in 2020, moved to Costa Rica, through even some plant medicine ceremonies, really started to uncover after that kind of what my purpose is. And teaching became kind of a forefront of that, just using the messages, using the lessons that I'd learned to teach anyone that was open to it.
Yeah, I will say, out of my own experience with plant medicine, is that you have unresolved trauma, it'll find it, and it'll go right to that point. And the experience, I mean, at least for me, was that everything that I was afraid of happened. And then I remember being curled up like a ball of vomiting misery on a patch of grass outside of Maloka, wondering why I spent so much money on feeling this bad.
Yep.
And then sort of the work begins. So tell us about the work. So what I hear when you talk, you said I had criteria that I was no longer willing to sacrifice on. I think that's absolutely critical in the design of a purpose statement. It's the hard boundary. For the first time in my life, I have set some hard boundaries where I'm like, there has to be reciprocity. I don't want to feel like it's expected that I do these things and everybody shows up and then they're just like, it doesn't matter to them. It's like, if I do this, I want this to be a particular way. I want people to respect what I do. I want them to participate. What is it about us postponing this setting of these criterias and the boundaries for as long as we do? Have you figured that out yet?
Well, I don't know why we do it other than I don't know if there's an awareness that you can do it, right? I mean, it's funny how many times have you heard, if you truly enjoy what you are doing for a job, like you will never work a day in your life. I mean, I've heard that a few million times and I finally got it. I've been looking at this, what can make me money? Right. And that was the first criteria, when the reality is, if I look at what makes me happy, what's in true alignment with this message that I want to deliver, whatever that is, I want to make this widget. I want to develop this service. I want to help people with yoga, or I want to, whatever, it doesn't really matter. The reality is that if you design that business from that point, I have a full belief that there's 8 billion people on the planet. You will connect with the right people and you will welcome in the abundance of wealth that you will find. And it's a lot easier because you're going to have fun doing it. And so we're sold this, I think, this lie from the beginning. And I hate this. The worst thing we can tell our kids is you've got to work hard to get anything. I hate that. In reality is the easiest path is the smart path, right? I mean, and not that you don't have to be smart about it. And obviously I think smart is the key, but you don't have to. The lie that we're sold is like, and we see it when we talk to people, right? Oh, I've had this really hard day. Like that's a badge and if you didn't work really hard that day, then you didn't do anything. When I look at the people now that come to me and they're like, well, and I love people that value their time more on a project rather, because they're like, well, I can do that. I can develop that thing for you. I can design that logo, build that thing, whatever it is, right? I'm going to build it for X. And the reality is, because to flip it around, I think we used to do this. It's interesting. Someone would ask, I love this test, what does a logo cost? And I say, well, I mean, a logo costs $2,000. Well, why would it cost $2,000? What if it only takes you 2 hours to do it? And I was like, well, what if it takes us 20 hours to do it? The reality is you should value that if it takes us 2 hours, that's great. You get a fantastic logo and you get it 2 hours. And I think that key of us realizing the value of our time and the expertise that we bring is really the important part of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot in there. I believe that this hustle culture is really designed by our educational system, where we have to be good at everything. And then it doesn't matter how good you are at some things, the things that you're not good at are being hammered down as your weak spot. So our entire life, we are programmed to look for things that we naturally suck at and then torture ourselves into getting better at something we don't like and we're not good at, which in the real world is ludicrous. Because why would you not put the most value on something that is easy? Because that's your zone of genius. And to your point, that's the 2-hour logo, is you're paying for somebody who is so comfortable and so good at it that it doesn't take them 20 hours because they've developed this process, the system, their signature growth system, how we call it, to come up with something that is this powerful in such a short amount of time. So you set the criteria, you set the boundaries, you say what you want, and now how did you figure out what the thing is? Because finding my purpose is the number one question I hear right now. How did you do it?
Yeah. So a couple of things, it started writing, maybe it was haphazard with a journal, but really started getting out a journal and writing and exploring, because it helps to get it out of your head, right? So the first thing I did was to take a look at what have I experienced in the last 5 years? Where have I experienced that state of flow? And for me, a big one was in helping this man who is a dear brother of mine out of Chile that serves a medicine called Cambo. And I helped during a ceremonial week. And what's really interesting is I realized it's the first time in my life that I've done something. It's really a challenging situation. I'm managing, 40 people at a time who are coming to
Combo
sit with
is
this
that the
medicine.
frog? That's the frog.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that gets burned. Yeah.
Yeah, the monkey tree frog. And it's 10, 12-hour days of coordinating and then actually physically helping to serve the medicine with this man and just support people. But I realized time was irrelevant. It felt like a month long and it felt like an hour all at the same time. And so I took those experiences and I thought, well, I'd like that. But I didn't quite understand what about that. And then two, I'm away from my family. So it's like I can't travel with him 9 months out of the year and still have the family aspect be supported. But another really cool trick, and I learned this from a writer, Jen Sincero. She wrote You're a Badass, which is one of my favorite books. Actually, in a meditation, she taught this, and it's what led me to developing this company, Sunny HQ. I never really done this. I'd had some experience meditating. This was about 15 years ago. So the guide was to sit and meditate and just project yourself forward in your life. It doesn't matter. Don't have any constraints. It's not necessarily 5 or 10 years. It's just sometime in the future, and then tell a story. And at this point, I hadn't written that much, but it was wild. I came out of this meditation and wrote, 4 pages, this really elaborate story about where I woke up, and very descriptive. And so the way to do this is as you meditate, and that's what's wonderful about this story aspect of it is as I'm writing this and all the details, once I reread that story, it told me almost everything I needed to know about what I wanted. Like my body knew inherently what I wanted, and some version of myself that was not in my brain, right, knew what my goals were. And so what this told me was that I wanted to live in kind of a tropical environment. It also told me a lot about my success by what was around me. I drove into what told me about my hobbies, because I was up early in the morning and had a helicopter come so I could take pictures. It told me about that part of my life. I drove into my office, and my office was kind of this think tank environment. And I knew the people, I named each of the people that were working with me, and even what aspects of the job they were doing. And so as I started to describe all these things, it was very interesting that what it told me, for instance, is I love the beginning of any business. I love the first 5 years. I guess a lot of people call that grinding time.
Mhm.
I don't really like that, because I look at it as this fantastic Rubik's Cube puzzle environment of which.
In growth architecture, we call this the creative forge. And then
Yeah.
it goes into the growth forge, into the legacy forge.
Okay. Yeah. I like that much better. But to me, I'm so comfortable.
All creation.
Yeah. In that environment where not that I'm not comfortable, but after that, I get a little bored, in the 5 to 10 year and beyond, when things are working and it's a growth. I want someone else to come in and do that. I love the figuring all the things out and that uncomfortable stage of, oh crap, where is this going to come from? I'm super comfortable. And so between those two things, kind of the writing side of it and doing those meditations, I still do that today as a check-in. I still regularly 2-3 times a year do that same meditation where I project forward. It's helpful to understand, where do I want to live? What kind of things do I want around me? What do I see for my future in not just the business aspects or with the personal aspects of my life? What am I welcoming in? And so it's those things that really help quite a bit.
So tell us about what is Sunny HQ and how do you help people?
Yeah. So Sunny HQ is a human first WordPress company. And so what does that mean, right? We host, maintain, and support WordPress websites. So in the marketplace right now, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with WordPress. It runs about 45% of the internet. It's a very easy platform to develop a website. But it's interesting. I've been in this kind of relative area for 25 years. And it's funny, even with AI today, it's no less complicated to actually run the website than it was 20 years ago. And that's where we come in. What I found early on is before I was running Sunny HQ and before I was running the agency, I was the business looking for someone to help with a website. And there's this communication gap between business owners and people running websites, right? So you go get GoDaddy or WP Engine or any of these guys, they speak technical speak. We speak business speak, right? We're speaking revenue, and these guys are speaking ones and zeros. And the problem with that is there's a tremendous time waste when businesses need work done and they don't really know how to communicate that with the technical aspects. So what I found is that it's this gap in the marketplace is why don't we just be that, right? What we do is we offer a very high-end level of support, very high-end level of hosting itself. And then on top of that, we handle literally everything technical that needs to be done with the website. So the value is to the businesses the way I'd kind of uncover this with most of our prospects. I say, how many hours did you spend in, let's say, per month in the last 3 months on your website? And once they really dig into it, they're like, oh, yeah, this broke and that broke and I couldn't get in touch with this person. So I don't know, maybe I spend.
Oh, yeah. I've been waiting for 2 months for somebody to get back to me to change my about page and to change that photo. They're just not getting back. It's the worst.
Yeah, that's the cost, the frustration time, right? So that's 10 hours. And I asked the question, I was like, what's your time worth? And is it worth $100 an hour, $200 an hour? Our plans start at $200 a month. So most of our clients pay $200 to $350 a month. And if you look at it's very obvious, right? That's going to save you 10 hours of your time. I'd much rather have you do everything. And so it's a real turnkey way of looking at that website of your business. You manage your business. You continue to do everything you need to do to run your business, but we run the website and it's worked really well.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think there's definitely a big need to it. And what I think is important about our conversation today is that you used your transformation into purpose, not necessarily in strumming the drums and chanting in white flowy clothes, which I think a lot of times is the assumption that when you have a spiritual awakening or you're stepping into purpose, that somehow it has to be that. So you are still very much on earth with a service that is very much a tech service and that helps businesses. So as we're closing the show, what would you tell somebody who is really trying to find what their purpose is and they do want to make money? What's the first thing that they should do? Should they follow your guideline and just journaling about it? Anything else we can tell them?
Journaling is really important. There's 3 things I do every day so meditation, mantra, and movement. I've worked with a wide range of modalities. I stress the key is, and I talk about this in my book, is like, I don't have the answer for everyone. I have the answer for me. And if you can find some correlation between those 2 things, for me, it was about like this menagerie of things, right? It's like a little bit of Kung Fu, a little bit of plant medicine, meditation, mantra, but these things that I do every day that I find really important is every day I roll right out of bed in short 10, 15 minutes of meditation. Then I have about 15 minutes of this movement. It's basically, jumping. It's kind of a lymph moving, right? These exercises are all over Instagram right now. And then I move out of that into mantra, and I literally have a mantra, kind of 3 things that I say every single morning. I've written these things, but then I kind of veer off and literally, speak to my higher guide, speak to my angels in these things that help me. And I found these things really anchor me every single day because it's the moment in which before the day has started, I have a moment of complete silence in the meditation. I move my body, I get it working. And then the mantra part is I'm speaking to myself about what I want. What do I want to design for myself that day? And if anything, that place is a great place to start because until you start to introduce silence into your life, and introduce listening to yourself, we have a tendency to go negative self-talk or just not to talk. And if we don't say what we want out loud, even if to ourselves, we can't get there.
I love that so much. And how can we find out more about Sunny HQ and your book? Tell us how to find you.
Yeah, so Sunny HQ, just go to sunnyhq.io/podcast. Is a really great start. There's actually a free download. It'll help you through some issues you may be having on your own website. And then you can go to my website, just dylanclaytonbost.com. It's got some information about the book and about me. And just sign up there. I'd love to let anyone know. It looks like we'll be publishing in the late spring. So I'm super excited about that. And I look forward to hearing from those that are interested in it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, Dylan, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your experience on how people can find their purpose. And until we see each other again.
Great. Thanks so much.
And that is it for us for today. Thank you for listening to or watching this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, Founders of the Future. If you know somebody who's got a little bit of a challenge, maybe right now stepping into purpose, we'd be appreciative if you can share this show maybe with one or two other people. Help us get the word out on how to be spiritually aligned and financially successful to as many people as we can. And with that, I say goodbye until next time. That's it for this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, Founders of the Future. If you're done playing small and ready to build the future on your terms, subscribe, share, and help us reach more trailblazers like you. And if you're serious about creating, growing, and scaling a business that's aligned with who you are, schedule your Uncovery session at uncoverysession.com. Lead with vision. Move with purpose. Create your future.